All right. Hey, welcome back for another week of Guided by Faith. I am always encouraged that you are joining. And I think I need to lower the microphone just a tad there. Okay. This week, I'm taking a break from the What Would You Say series, and every episode is going to be a little bit of a standalone. And these, let's just call them words of wisdom. Each of these things is something that has been helpful for me to grasp in my life, something that I think would benefit you. And so I want to give them to you. They're each just small little nuggets that I think if you can add them and apply them to your life will help you in many, many ways. And today I want to just share with you the first one, which is just this mentality and mindset that something doesn't have to be your fault to be your responsibility. People a lot of times, especially young people, but I see this in politics. You know, it's funny. I'm sorry. I said especially young people. But sadly, I see this in middle-aged people and old people all the time. Yeah, you see it in leaders and world leaders. Everybody's trying to find somebody else to blame. You know, recently we had these horrible fires in California. Well, whose fault is it that all this stuff caught on fire? You know, it's the governor's fault because he didn't do this. It's the mayor's fault because they didn't do this. In politics, well, I didn't cause this, somebody else did. But also the same thing in your household, right? It's not me, it's my brother, it's my sister. I didn't make that mess, somebody else did. In school, well, I can't believe that, you know, I didn't do this. Why are you punishing me? And one of the things that's just going to be really helpful in your life is just to get over that blame assigning game and realize that something doesn't have to be your fault in order for you to take responsibility to make it better. Okay? Something doesn't have to be your fault for you to take responsibility. Let's go back to those fires in California. It matters whose fault it is. They'll have to sort that out, but none of that gets the fire out. What gets the fire out is firefighters taking responsibility. None of those firefighters set the fires, but it's their responsibility to put them out. And in the same way, it can be as simple as there is a mess in the floor of your house and you didn't do it. All right. But oftentimes what happens is mom and dad didn't do it either, but they have to pick it up. Why? Because somebody has to pick it up. But one of the aspects of leadership and growth that you can have is just becoming a responsible person. When we teach on manhood in our youth ministry, we say a real man rejects passivity and accepts responsibility. But real women also accept responsibility. Stop spending so much time assigning blame and instead take responsibility to make things better. It's so empowering, it's so freeing, and it is a sign of a mature leader. You know, we have adults that are listening to this, and I want to encourage you in the same thing. It doesn't matter ultimately sometimes who made it happen. The question is, how are we going to get somewhere from here? Let's take sin, for example. Where's our ultimate model of this? My sin and your sin was not God's fault. He did not make us sin. He did not put us in a situation where we had to sin. We chose to sin. But Jesus took the responsibility to get us out of sin, to free us from sin. Jesus took responsibility to bear the burden of our sins so that we didn't have to live under judgment, so that we could go be with God forever in heaven. It's not his fault, but he took responsibility. And if we are going to be imitators of Christ, I would encourage you today, look around. What is something that naturally you'd be like, well, I didn't do that, so I'm not responsible for it. And instead say, how can I be most like Jesus in this situation? How can I help take responsibility for making this better? It could be, again, as simple as a mess on the floor. It could be a busted relationship. Maybe you're not the one that caused it, but you could be the bigger person to help make a remedy. Or maybe it's a broken world situation that you certainly didn't cause, but God's giving you some resources, God's giving you some input, God's giving you some influence, and you can use that to make the world better. We're like Jesus when we take responsibility for things that are not our fault. Some things are going to be your fault, and I hope you're quick to take responsibility for those, but a real sign of mature discipleship is for you to step into owning the fixing of things, even if you had nothing to do with the breaking of things. I want you to be like Jesus. I want to be like Jesus. So this week, today especially, let's work on taking responsibility in a healthy way, not lying and saying I did it when I didn't do it, but instead, I will help fix it because God's given me the ability to do that. And when you do that, you'll find that you feel much more confident, much more capable, much more respected, much more empowered, and you'll be more like Jesus. And that's our goal.